Well, welcome to our session on Want Higher Quality, Consistency, and Delivery Speed. Augment your translators with artificial intelligence. That sounds exciting. You might have heard me talk before about the research that suggests that we should use artificial intelligence to augment and assist translators. And now I think we get a wonderful opportunity to hear what it's like when it's used in the real world. So I'm John DeNero, Chief Scientist for Lilt.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alessandra. Most people know me as Alex. I'm head of global localization at Asics Digital, and I have been working with Lilt for the past few years. So happy to be here to share.
Yeah, this should be fun. And we do have a Q&A session at the end, so please stick around for that. If you don't know, Lilt is a company that builds artificial intelligence software to improve the quality and efficiency of enterprise localization, and then we use that software in our services. We don't focus on raw machine translation because that doesn't offer a quality guarantee. You send content to the MT system, it does what it does, and then if you were to publish that MT system output, you wouldn't have any idea whether it was right. It's wonderful that neural machine translation is more fluent and more coherent than it ever was before, but it's not something that you want to publish for text that lots of people are going to read and make decisions on. So it's very fast, it's very inexpensive, but with no quality guarantee, it doesn't make sense for most localization. Something that people try sometimes is MT post-editing, which I think of as a 1960s fix for the MT quality problem. And here, you send content to the MT system runs, and then a human linguist is asked to clean it up, fix all of the errors. So it's human linguist produced translated content, and it can be inexpensive, but there are quality issues even with this setup because of the interaction between the linguist and the MT system. And this actually can turn into delivery time problems down the road. And perhaps most importantly, this is not how linguists tend to like to work with machine translation. Many people have said that they dislike being post-editors. So why MT post-editing is not the future of machine translation? Well, what happens is that even when a linguist editing the output, they often leave the result to be too similar to what the machine translation system originally proposed. The MT system makes a suggestion, they're under a time pressure, they clean up the errors, sure, but do they really produce the sentences that are their best work? I think they're not in a good position to do that. An acceptable quality is not what you want when you're publishing text that matters for business outcomes, conversion rates, things like that. This can be low cost, but I think the cost of post-edited machine translation is perhaps artificially low, and mostly low because linguists are paid less for their work rather than creating great efficiency gains. And we don't want to reduce linguist pay as the future of machine translation. That's just going to lower the quality of work overall. And while post-editing machine translation can be fast if you just measure segment by segment, the fact that this can introduce quality problems can delay the delivery of projects, and so counterintuitively can make the localization process slower. If it turns out that using post-editing, you then have to redo the work because the client isn't satisfied, or worse yet, those quality problems get published to the public and are then escalated and have to be fixed, that requires a huge amount of time. So anything that could potentially compromise quality will also compromise time to delivery. And the fourth issue is job satisfaction. Linguists strongly prefer to translate rather than just be editors. So we do things differently at Lilt. We call it human in the loop, artificial intelligence. And this is a complicated diagram, but the important part is right here in the center, which is that we have a neural machine translation system running all the time, making suggestions to human linguists as they type. They're still typing the original translation, so they're still in control, but they're getting suggestions of what phrases, words, and the rest of the sentence to use next. When those suggestions are right, that can speed up the human linguist. That can also improve consistency across linguists by sharing suggestions between them. And the most important part is that the system can adapt to how they're translating. So our neural machine translation systems learn from the human linguists confirmations or acceptance of suggestions as they work. And that means that the suggestions become much better, and this adaptation can happen quite quickly. Now, it's still true that you need baseline translation data. We also customize our engines using customer translation data from their translation memories in order to prime the system, but then the system keeps learning as the human linguist is working. So this tight interactive loop is the difference between a process that uses machine translation but can compromise quality by biasing the process too much toward what the machine translation system originally suggested, versus something that really puts the human linguist in control to do their best work, but augments them or suggests what they should do next along the way in order to make them faster and more accurate. Okay, so we think this is a good way to go. Human in the loop AI enables an MT system to get better with each translation. I think that's really important because even if you train a machine translation system on the entire web, it still isn't specialized for any particular client, and that's really important for getting the translations right. You get more accurate MT suggestions, which means translator efficiency improves over time, but linguists remain in control. So this is linguists' preferred method of working with MT, and you get higher quality translation at a lower cost. So the story from our perspective is that technology should augment humans, making them more productive and efficient rather than replace them. And that means customers can pay less while translators are being paid more, or they both share in the gains from the increased efficiency. And the technology means that localization leaders can spend less time on vendor and workflow management and more time proving that localization is a valuable part of their enterprise, which means that maybe you can translate more stuff with the fixed budget. Okay, so that's the story of why that tight human-in-the-loop AI is, from my perspective, the right way to be using machine translation. And let's hear how it went. Alex?
Yes, thank you, John. That was really a great way of explaining a very complicated process. So thank you for putting it in terms that are digestible for any level of technical expertise. And this is really where what I understood as well of this technology. And why I wanted to work with Lilt. So just very briefly wanted to talk about Asics. I would imagine that a lot of people are familiar with the brand. Asics is an athletic footwear and apparel company. It was founded in Japan 70 years ago. I don't know if everybody knows that Asics is a Japanese company. And a fun, interesting fact that I always like to share about Asics is that the name of the company is actually an acronym for the Latin phrase anima sana in corpore sano, which in English means a sound mind and a sound body. And this is not just the company's name, but it's really the credo that the company was built on. And it is also the credo that the company continues to live by. So anima sana and corpore sano is what drives all of the decisions within the organization. And interestingly enough, it has resonated particularly strongly in this pandemic. We have seen that exercising your body can also help with the health of your mind. So we continue to be very proud and continue to work driving this credo with everything we do. So as part of Asics, we are Asics Digital. That is the entity within Asics that I specifically work for. Asics Digital was formed in 2016. It's headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, which is, a tech hub in the US. It's also a running hub in the US. It's a very well-known running city. And Asics Digital really sits at the center of the digital transformation of the organization. And for the past 3 years, it has driven the digital transformation of Asics completely. We leverage modern technology, marketing, analytics, and design thinking. We operate as a high-tech startup. That is the culture that drives us. And we improve our users' lives through fitness and make Asics the most useful fitness brand in the world. That is really the goal that we work towards. We operate in specific digital focus areas. You see them in this slide. E-commerce is one of the main areas that we focus on. We have worked to migrate all of the different regions within Asics to a single e-commerce platform. We have a loyalty program called One Asics that is driven through our CRM. And also this is a global CRM that we have been implementing at the different regional levels for the past 3 years. Analytics and consumer insights is a very important piece of what we provide to the Asics ecosystem by providing a single view of the customer. Fitness apps is another area of focus for us. We have 2 apps, one called Runkeeper, one called Asics Studio. We also now have a virtual race capability through a Race Roster, which is a company that we acquired last year. And finally, but most also very important, global marketing, global digital marketing. So anything from landing pages to digital banners, digital ads, emails, social media, and everything that goes into the global digital marketing aspect. So when we're talking about Lilt, we're actually going to talk specifically about the e-commerce platforms piece. Overall, at Asics Digital, we don't work with huge amounts of volume. As you can see from a lot of the pieces on this slide, we're talking about short string content, kind of low quantity, emails, social posts, app strings, things like that. So not a lot of large volumes in terms of word count. So not necessarily the best candidate for some leveraging of machine translation. So I was interested in working with Lilt for a while, ever since I saw them present at LocWorld in Montreal some years ago. So I kept talking to the organization, trying to find an opportunity to work with them. And I finally had my chance. I have a little bit of a timeline here of our journey with Lilt. And really the first opportunity that we got to work with Lilt was at the end of 2017. First, in 2017, I actually recognized a problem that Asics was facing. And this was really in the e-commerce area. We realized that Asics Europe, which is the region that works with the most languages by far, spend way too much time translating product descriptions, often missing the launch date. And this was mostly due to tight English creation timeline. So we were receiving the English copy very, very late in the game, and therefore we only had a limited time before the translation of the descriptions needed to be ready for launch. So this was a problem that Asics Europe had for a long time, but they weren't really interested in changing their current process. They thought it would be way too disruptive, already very delicate process when it came to timelines. So we had to wait for the right opportunity, and that actually came in October of 2018, so towards the end of 2018. And at this time, Asics Europe decided that they wanted to add 2 new locales to the e-com sites, and they wanted to add Polish and Portuguese. And in order to do this, the organization had to quickly localize 4 seasons worth of product descriptions. So 4 times the volume that they normally would have had to handle in a regular product localization process. So this was obviously impossible for their traditional process. So this was my chance. It was our chance to present the Lilt solution as a viable option to localize product descriptions. And the organizations supported us in this. So we worked very closely with Lilt. We had 2 pilots to localize the existing product catalog with 4 seasons into Polish and Portuguese in time for the site launch. So we were able to do that. We met the timeline and the quality expectations. So really the quality expectations were for the quality to be on par with the traditional human, fully human translation process that they had before. And we were able to deliver the pilot project in December 2018. So based on this success, we committed to using Lilt starting from 2019 for the translation of all product descriptions. So using Lilt for 7 European languages and also Chinese, Taiwanese, and French Canadian. So basically 2019 was the first year that we used Lilt on all of our product description translations. So we covered 2 full seasons, autumn winter 2019 and spring summer 2020. And so this has been a really successful experience at Asics. So we pulled a few numbers here just to show the impact that the Lilt method had, or the Lilt solution had on our numbers. So the biggest percentage delta, let's say, was the cost savings, which is something that wasn't even a priority for us, to be honest. We were not necessarily looking to cut costs, but it's always nice when you can do that. And we were able to cut costs by 70%, 70, which is impressive. So again, this was a really nice bonus that, you know, the management didn't even necessarily ask for. The biggest and most impactful difference was made by speed. So that was the problem statement really in the beginning. It was the slowness of the traditional process. And with Lilt, we were able to speed up the localization process by 60%, 60. So that allowed us to really be comfortable at turning around the localization of these product descriptions in time for launch of the season's product descriptions. The next percentage is really just percentage of reuse, so being able to leverage the matching capability of the Lilt technology. And we were able to reuse about 25% of the content. This kind of speaks more to the health of the English content, really, you know, more than the translation process, but still, it was an important percentage to show. And quality, never least, is also an important metric here. And it really, our goal was to be able to achieve the same level of quality that we were achieving with the human translations with Lilt, and we were able to do that. And that was, you know, just for the first 2 seasons, so with an engine that was trained to a certain degree, but not fully. So yeah, very successful pilot on our, well, actually first year on our side. So now we continue to work with Lilt, of course. We're still using Lilt for our product descriptions today. I'd like to talk a little bit about working with Lilt as a partner, actually, because we're not just throwing our volume over the wall and into a black box and Lilt process it and spits it back. We have a very close partnership, as all you know, provider and client relationships should be. We work very closely together at optimizing processes and quality, and we continue to strive to really improve wherever we can. So what is next really on the roadmap of our partnership? There's a few different areas that we're focusing on. First of all, optimization. We want to do much closer collaboration with the product copy team. So making sure that any efficiencies can be built in that on that level so that they can be leveraged in our processes. Making sure that we work very closely with our regions to make sure that regional reviews are streamlined but also impactful in terms of feeding back the right information into the machine. And optimizing the reviews so that it's easier for our reviewers to actually process the content. We're trying to also minimize some of the reviews, so focusing on segments that are more problematic than others. We're also looking to automate a lot of our processes, so a possible connection with our product information management system. We're looking at doing some Lilt data pulling through an API into Tableau. And we're also looking at some further TMS integrations to make sure that our project management process is more streamlined. Of course, we're always looking at growth, and we've already started that this year. We are adding a new tier 1 language, which is Japanese, which is, the mother language for this company. So it's a very huge milestone for us that the Japanese team is actually giving us their trust with this content. We're also adding tier 2 languages. So we're adding the Scandinavian languages. So that's 4. We're adding a few Eastern European languages. We're also adding Russian and possibly Thai. And we're always looking for new opportunities. We're hoping Korean will come along, and who knows, the sky's the limit. And then innovation is very important at Asics Digital. And actually Lilt checked a very important innovation checkbox for us. So we're very proud of that, but we're not going to be complacent. We want to continue to innovate. So we look to Lilt to offer us more innovative solutions. We do consider Lilt to be a tech company like us. And so we expect to innovate, to see more innovative solutions to come.
Yeah, maybe I could tell you about a few of those that are coming your way. But first, I wanted
That'd be awesome.
I wanted to say how great it is to see growth in the new languages. When costs go down, oftentimes the set of languages that an organization can cover goes up, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I mean, that's really why we've spent so much effort on kind of streamlining the localization process, is to help make sure that organizations localize into even more languages than they were before. So it's wonderful to see that happening at Asics. So what's coming up, I'll just give you a little preview of what we're working on in the kind of research and technology team at Lilt. We have seen large improvements over the last couple of years in initial machine translation quality, and also the effectiveness of real-time adaptation. So adapted translations, meaning those that are learning from the human linguist, are of higher quality, and they get to that higher quality more quickly, so that the translator doesn't have to see the same errors as many times before they just go away. We're also investing a lot in assisting the reviewers and quality assurance process, not to replace them, but instead to augment the reviewers so that they're more efficient and more complete. So if they make a change somewhere, we should make sure that they make that kind of same or similar change everywhere, and do that in a smart way. So that's reviewer edit predictions, contextual spelling correction, and tag placement predictions, just to make sure that the reviewing process is as thorough as possible to reach that very highest level of quality. And we don't just build artificial intelligence, but other automation software in order to improve turnaround times of projects. So we're focused on matching linguists to projects in a way that's as efficient as possible, so they'll get done quickly and accurately, and to make sure that we have enough monitoring of the progress throughout a localization project to know that it might fall behind schedule and we need to intervene. So those are the kinds of things that we focus on. A lot of it is very technical, machine translation technology, but also we focus on the whole process and everybody who's involved in localization to make sure that it works well. And as Alex said, it's always very collaborative with the client. Okay, so that's the end of this presentation. I hope you'll join us for the Q&A session, and thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.